Picture this. It's February 1st, 1959. You're out in the freezing, pitch-black expanse of Kholat Mountain, a place the local Mansi people literally call Dead Mountain. And it's about to become the site of an absolute nightmare. 9 highly experienced Russian cross-country skiers just vanish. When rescuers finally reach their campsite, what they find makes absolutely zero sense. There's an abandoned tent, but it wasn't torn up by the wind. No, it was deliberately sliced open from the inside. These hardcore survivalists literally slashed their way out into negative 30 degrees Celsius temperatures. Some were completely barefoot, and others had run out into a deadly blizzard wearing nothing but their socks. I mean, what could possibly make them do that?
Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to dive straight into the terrifying facts behind the world's most insane unsolved mysteries.
Okay, let's look at this bizarre scene. When investigators finally located the bodies scattered across the snow, the medical findings were just staggering. We're not just talking about hypothermia here. They found bodies with crushed ribs and broken skulls. We're talking massive internal injuries that looked like they'd been in a high-speed car crash. One hiker was actually missing her eyes and had her tongue cut out. Others had unexplained third-degree burns and blunt force trauma, almost like they'd been hit with a baseball bat. It gets worse, though. One hiker had vomited blood and literally bitten off a large chunk of his own knuckle. When they found him, the flesh was still clamped between his teeth. It was honestly as if they'd been savaged by some kind of monster. So the really crucial point here is this: what terrifying force could possibly compel experienced survivalists to run half naked into a deadly blizzard? Investigators did find snapped branches on the ground, which suggests they might have desperately tried to build a small shelter or a fire in the snow. But listen, they knew the wilderness. They absolutely knew that running outside in those conditions would cause fatal frostbite in a matter of minutes. Something out there terrified them way more than the freezing death that was waiting for them.
Believe it or not, there have been exactly 75 theories proposed to explain the Dyatlov Pass Incident. 75! Some investigators suggested a slab avalanche, but the physical evidence of those brutal injuries just didn't match up. Then, of course, you have the KGB theories. 2 of the hikers had actually witnessed the Soviet-covered-up Kyshtym nuclear disaster, and incredibly, traces of radiation were found on some of the bodies. The official Russian investigation ultimately blamed a compelling natural force, but they totally refused to explain what that actually meant. From UFOs spotted as burning objects in the sky by locals, to a Yeti, to a drug trip gone completely wrong, not a single one of these 75 theories convincingly explains this massacre.
Moving on, let's look at the Cecil Hotel anomaly and Elisa Lam's final moments.
Right, so jumping forward to January 2013, 21-year-old student Elisa Lam had been missing for almost 2 weeks when the LAPD released this incredibly disturbing CCTV footage from inside an elevator. Her erratic final movements are just chilling to watch. First, she steps into the elevator and presses buttons for multiple floors. Then she stands back and stares nervously through the open doors, acting exactly as if she's waiting for something or someone to appear. After that, she jumps back in fright, huddling against the elevator wall like she's trying to hide. And finally, she steps outside, waving her hands in this very strange, deliberate pattern, almost as if she's communicating with an unseen presence. And sadly, she was never seen alive again. The bizarre facts really just escalate from there. On February 19th, a hotel worker made a truly gruesome discovery. Elisa was found drowned, completely naked, inside a sealed rooftop water tank. But the logistical impossibilities are what make this case so terrifying. The tank was covered by a heavy 20-pound lid. Plus, accessing that roof required staff keys and passcodes. If she had forced the door, alarms would have tripped immediately. Oh, and there were no ladders to even scale the 8-foot tank. And while she did have a history of mental health struggles, the toxicology reports showed absolutely no major drug abuse or overdoses that day. So whether you think it was an impossibly complex foul play or something totally paranormal, the evidence just doesn't add up. We're shifting gears rapidly now from a rooftop in LA to a historic crossing in Scotland, specifically the Overtoun Bridge. You guys, since the 1950s, an unbelievable 300 dogs have inexplicably leaped 50 feet to their deaths right off this exact bridge. In 2014, a woman named Alice Trevorrow actually watched her perfectly obedient spaniel, Cassie, become completely entranced by some unseen presence before just launching herself over the edge. Some dogs have even survived the fall, run back up the bank, and jumped a second time. A former pastor claimed the bridge is possessed by spirits. Now, a more rational theory points to the scent of wild minks driving the dogs crazy, but the catch is there is zero proof of any minks even living in the area. If that's not unsettling enough, starting in 2007, the Pacific Northwest became the site of a pretty gruesome statistical impossibility. Exactly 25 severed human feet mysteriously washed ashore along the Salish Sea in British Columbia and Washington state. But here is the truly insane detail. Every single foot was perfectly encased in distinct brands of running shoes, like Adidas, Nike, and Reebok. Police insisted the feet hadn't been manually severed, but rather naturally detached during decomposition. Okay, sure, but why did 25 of them wash up in the exact same small geographical area within just a few years? The statistical chance of even two washing up together is literally 1 in a million.
And speaking of creeping dread, that brings us to the unsolved Hinterkaifeck massacre in Bavaria, Germany. This one is super spooky. Days prior to the event, a farmer found strange footprints in the snow, leading from the forest straight to his machinery door, but there were no footprints leading back. The old maid actually quit, absolutely terrified, claiming the attic was haunted by strange noises. So a new maid arrives on March 31st. Just 4 days later, the entire family of 6, including that new maid and a 2-year-old child, are found brutally hacked to death with a pickaxe. And the absolute most chilling part? The killer lived in the home for days afterward, literally eating the family's food from the pantry and feeding their cattle, before completely vanishing into history.
Stepping back even further into history, let's talk about the 18th century European vampire panic. Now, this wasn't just some peasant folklore. This was a massive official government crisis. The Austrian Habsburg Empire sent out specialized commissions of top military surgeons and legal officials to investigate sudden village deaths, and what they documented is completely wild. They exhumed corpses, like a man named Arnold Pohl, and officially recorded that the bodies had a vampiric condition. These top scientific minds of the empire noted fresh blood flowing from the organs, red and livid skin, and a total lack of normal decomposition. So, what was their official medical prescription? Decapitate the corpses and burn them to ashes.
Then there's the 12th century anarchy period in England, which gives us the bizarre mystery of the Woolpit children. Think about it. A normal villager back then spoke English and ate standard crops. But the villagers in Woolpit discovered a boy and a girl emerging from a wolf trap who spoke a completely unrecognizable language, absolutely refused to eat anything except raw broad beans, and had literal bright green skin. Once the girl eventually learned a bit of English, she claimed they came from a twilight world where the sun never shone and everything was green. Modern theories suggest severe iron deficiency anemia caused that green tint, but others genuinely argue this was a literal encounter with beings from another dimension or even another planet.
Let's transition over to a mind-bending case of potential reincarnation. Back in 1957, young sisters Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock were tragically killed in a car crash. The very next year, their grieving parents had identical twins, Gillian and Jennifer. But here's the thing, these weren't just ordinary twins. One twin had a birthmark on her hip exactly where her deceased sister had one, and a mark on her forehead perfectly matching her other sister's accident scar. As they grew up, they accurately named the exact toys their late sisters had owned, divided them in the exact same way, and suffered from identical crippling phobias of cars and crashing. Leading psychiatrist Dr. Ian Stevenson actually called it the clearest case of reincarnation he had ever investigated. Adding a bit of a sci-fi twist, we have the 1964 Solway Firth photograph. A guy named Jim Templeton took a simple picture of his 5-year-old daughter out in a remote marsh in England. He swore nobody else was around, but when the photo was developed, an impossible, white-suited spaceman was standing directly behind her. And this isn't just a quirky photography glitch story. Days later, all the way on the other side of the world in Australia, the British military completely aborted a top-secret Blue Streak nuclear missile launch. Why? Because the technicians monitoring the firing range reported seeing 2 identical spaceman figures appearing out of thin air right on the launch pad. And that brings us to the final escalation, the Bennington Triangle. All right, we started on a freezing, cursed mountain in Russia, and we're ending deep in the cursed woods of Glastonbury Mountain in Vermont. I want you to really picture this remote expanse. The Native Americans consider this land completely cursed. Locals have long reported UFOs, completely bizarre paranormal activity, and even an 8-foot beast wandering the trails. And look, this isn't just spooky campfire folklore, because something out there in that deep, dark forest was genuinely taking people from their loved ones. People were simply vanishing into thin air without a single trace.
Just look at this terrifying timeline of disappearances. It kicks off in November 1945 with Mitty Rivers. He was an expert 74-year-old outdoorsman who knew the trails flawlessly. Over 500 people searched for him, and all they found was his handkerchief. Just a year later, college student Paula Jean Weldon vanished in the exact same area. But honestly, it gets crazier. In 1949, a World War I veteran named James Tedford vanished from a moving bus. Yes, a moving bus. 14 people got off, Tedford wasn't one of them, yet his belongings were still sitting right there on the luggage rack above his seat. And then in 1950, experienced survivalist Frida Langer vanished. Her body was finally found 6 months later in an area that had already been searched hundreds of times, and it was so degraded it was almost completely unrecognizable.
So the final question we must ask ourselves as we wrap up this explainer, the one that leaves us wondering in the dark, is this. What truly stalks the woods of the Bennington Triangle? Is it a wild animal? Is it a highly calculated human killer? Or is it something far beyond our understanding, just waiting in the trees? The evidence for all of these cases absolutely exists. The facts are heavily documented, but the actual truth, it remains entirely out of reach. Keep questioning everything you see, and never stop looking for the truth.
This file is closed, but the Atlas has more secrets. Tap one of these videos to uncover the next mystery.